Well, good morning, everybody. Before we get started here, I'm going to ask there's a young fella at the back, Rob Larew, if he would make his way to the front up here. I'm going to embarrass him as much as I can. Well, I've got a little bit of time left to do that. No, you got to come all the way up here. This is a big deal. It's a big deal. Committee has assigned a letter. Rob has been the minority staff director, the majority staff director. He's been everything there is to be at this committee for a long, long time. He's served it faithfully. He is opening a new chapter in his life, and we wish him Godspeed. We've signed a letter for the whole committee commemorating that service, and thank you very, very much. So with that, I'll turn to the ranking member for whatever embarrassing comments he wants to make to harass you.
Well, I don't know what to say. Rob has been with me from before I was anybody. I'm still not anybody, but so he's done an outstanding job for myself, my district, but also for the committee and for the country. And that's, what is it, 94? When did you come? 94? So that's a long time ago.
It is.
So as you all know, he's been somebody that can work with everybody, be able to work across the aisle and make things happen, and we're going to miss him. I don't know that we can totally replace him, but we got good people, and we'll work through it. So the letter, I'll read the letter. We'll embarrass you, okay? It's signed by all the members of the committee. It says, "Dear Rob, congratulations on your new endeavor. Thank you for your service to the House Agriculture Committee. Your leadership will be missed by all of us who have worked with you, beside you, and across from you over the years. Those who have served on the Agriculture Committee understand that it is different. We are more personal, less combative, and more solutions-oriented than any other committee in Congress. Our bipartisan reputation is thanks in no small part to the character and wisdom that you have carried into this job. We have seen that character not only through your actions, but also through the work of the staff that you've led. And likewise, we have heard your wisdom as you encouraged us to seek our thoughtful solutions to challenges that we face. On behalf of the Committee on Agriculture of the United States Congress, we want to thank you for your service, your dedication to the public and to this institution. We wish you happiness and continued success as you embark on the next chapter of your career." So with that, I don't know. I'm trying to get it in there. So. All right. I'm tearing apart, Rob.
Again, Rob, thank you for those long years of service to our committee, to Congress, and to the people. We appreciate it. So, with that, this hearing on the Committee on Agriculture, entitled Past, Present, and Future of SNAP, Opportunities for Improving Access to Food, will come to order. Mr. Nagelbauer, would you open us with a prayer?
Thank you. Father, we just come before you today and praise you and thank you for the gracious and loving God that you are. Father, we thank you for the opportunity that you give us to live in this United States of America. Father, there are so many challenges both here in our country and around the world, and I pray for wisdom for all of those that are in authority, that you have put in authority, that they would have the wisdom and the courage and the strength to make the decisions that make this world and make this country better. We thank you for the families represented here today, and we ask that you to continue to bless our great nation. For it's in your Son's precious name we pray. Amen.
All right, thank you. Over the course of the 114th Congress, we've heard from 55 witnesses at 15 different hearings in our series on the past, present, and future of SNAP. We've heard from witnesses discussing their experiences as SNAP recipients, from state agencies implementing SNAP across the country, from charitable partners that work with SNAP recipients, from innovative organizations receiving SNAP funding to help improve and target SNAP programs, from retailers who sell food and provide access to healthy foods in their local communities, and from a wide range of partners, implementers, government agencies, and stakeholders. These witnesses have expressed an array of opinions on the successes and failures of SNAP at serving people in need of nutritious, wholesome food. They have shared great accomplishments, but have also pointed out there's room for improvement. The findings of our 2-year review are being compiled into a comprehensive report that we plan to issue next month. As we begin the 16th and final hearing on our series, the individuals we have with us today represent organizations at the forefront of improving access to healthy food. At this point, we've heard all about food deserts and concerns about whether those receiving SNAP benefits can actually make healthy purchases with the benefits they receive. The organizations represented here today are working to address those concerns in unique and innovative ways. It's my hope that some of the ideas discussed in this hearing can be applied more broadly throughout the SNAP programs to enhance its delivery program. As we've discussed time and again, SNAP is not a one-size-fits-all program. Different communities have different needs, and there are different gaps in SNAP delivery. So I'm looking forward to hearing how the steps that today's witnesses have taken target the unique needs of the communities that they serve. As Chairman of the House Agriculture Committee, I'm especially cognizant of the challenges that many of who live in rural America face in accessing healthy food. Online purchases, whether or not they are made through SNAP, can increase access to fresh foods for customers in rural and urban communities alike who are not near or not able to travel to a fresh food retailer. Companies like Amazon, are well known for their online presence, and our other witnesses, while perhaps less well known, are in some cases already delivering groceries to customers through online purchases. While these online platforms certainly increase access to food, online sales also raised implementation questions related to shipping, product freshness, product availability, and cost. It's my hope that some of these questions can be answered or at least explored in this hearing. As a taxpayer and a steward of taxpayer dollars, I want the dollars that go to SNAP to be well spent. SNAP dollars that are used inefficiently or SNAP dollars that are not feeding people or helping them learn about healthy eating or helping them find work or lifting them off the programs that they're on. SNAP dollars should provide the greatest benefit possible and allow for the maximum improvement in the nutrition for households that need them. Hopefully, innovations in how customers make their food purchases will prove to be one such way that these efficiencies can be gained. Before I conclude, I'd like to recognize my good friend and colleague and neighbor, Randy Nagelbauer. Randy was first elected in 2013, a special election, an election I'm not unfamiliar with. Over the past 13 plus years, Randy served on this committee as well as financial services and I guess science and technology. He's been a good friend, a good neighbor. He served well, and he is leaving us at the end of this Congress to pursue other issues. Let this be a full warning to the rainbow trout populations across all of North America that Randy will have more fly fishing time available as a result of his turning this page in his life. And I couldn't wish him anything but the best. And Godspeed, Randy, on your whatever chapters are ahead of you going forward. So I appreciate your service to the constituents of District 19 and by extension, your work here in Congress as well. So thank you, buddy.
Well, thank you.
Godspeed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And well, it's been a great honor. You know, I come from an area that agriculture is extremely important, but you know, agriculture is important to the entire nation. And, you know, I've gotten to serve with a bunch of great folks in this room. And every chairman that I've served with is still on the committee, which I think says a lot about this committee. I think one of the things, having served on other committees, is I've always appreciated the bipartisan way that this committee works to make sure that Americans continue to enjoy the safest, the cheapest and food in the world and the best fiber. And so I'm thankful for that. And Mr. Chairman, I've certainly enjoyed serving with you, and thank you for inviting me to be your vice chairman. And I think it's a great committee. This is an important committee to our country, and I'm going to miss the friendships and the relationships that we've been able to make here. But the other people that I want to thank is those hundreds of farmers and ranchers over the years that have come before this committee, gotten off their tractor or gotten off their horse or, left their company to come up here and make sure that we understand how important the things and the decisions that we make in this committee impact those farm families across our country. So our thanks go out to them, and thank you for the time of recognizing.
Well, Godspeed. I would also like to recognize Dan Benachek and Chris Gibson, who are also concluding their service in Congress. those two have also served for 4 years now, and Dan, appreciate your work on this on our committee. And on the other side, we've got Gwen Graham and Brad Ashford and Ann Kirkpatrick. They're in Abstitia right now, but they'll be here. Let them know that we also recognize and appreciate their service. They joined us in the 114th Congress, and we'll be moving on. Appreciate their work, and as the letter to Rob said, this is in the balance a bipartisan group of folks that work together to try to improve food and how that food is grown. All those things are our responsibility. So, with that, I'd like to thank our witnesses for being here. We'll recognize them in a minute, but turn now to Mr. Peterson for any comments that he would like to make.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to also give my best to Randy. Remember when you first were elected, and were we in Amarillo or Lubbock? Amarillo? Yeah, when we went to dinner, I think it was, the first time I met you, way back when. So Randy's done a great job. The other members that are leaving the committee, their service is appreciated because they've been part of the reason we've been successful and been able to work in a way that's constructive for the American people, and we look forward to doing that into the future, and wish everybody well that in whatever they're going to be doing in the next chapter of their lives. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's nice to be back, I think, and welcome to everybody to the Agriculture Committee today. We're continuing the committee's review of SNAP by looking at what food providers are doing to improve access to food, and there are a lot of different approaches to this, and I'm looking forward to hearing testimony today from our witnesses. This is, maybe I'm wrong, my staff says this is our 18th SNAP review. Is that?
God, if we would have
whatever it is.
inflate the record, we'd be happy to inflate the record.
And I believe that this is the final hearing this year, I guess. So we've covered a lot of issues, but the overwhelming theme of the testimony has shown that while there are some areas for improvement, SNAP works. We've also heard testimony opposing efforts to block grant SNAP and on the importance of keeping SNAP within the Farm Bill. So I hope that we can keep these themes in mind as we start work on the Farm Bill next year. And again, I look forward, welcome the witnesses, look forward to their testimony, and thank Chair for holding today's hearing. I yield back.
Thank you, gentlemen. I also want to brag on Jackie Walorski and Jim McGovern. They've been the chair and ranking member of the Subcommittee on Nutrition. They've shepherded this work for 2 years. I now turn to Ms. Laworski for comments that she might have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you point out, I guess we're debating, I think it's the 16th hearing in the series examining the past, present, and future of SNAP, but who's counting, right, Jim? I want to thank you for your leadership and commitment to giving this program such a comprehensive review. I also want to thank my ranking member on the Nutrition Subcommittee, Mr. Jim McGovern. I have learned, Jim, so much, and I so much appreciate your friendship during this time. When I took the gavel of the subcommittee, it was clear that you were a dedicated and admired leader in the fight against hunger, and it's been an absolute pleasure to work alongside of you. And I'll never forget the event we did together in the Beltway here. When Jim walked in, he was like a rock star icon, and I'll never forget it. While we have our differences, we share the common goal of working together against poverty and hunger in this country. I think we've been able to accomplish a lot on a bipartisan basis in the last 2 years. This series of hearings has been an eye-opener for me. I've learned so much. I hope it's been for the other members of the committee as well. We've heard from the broadest range of stakeholders possible, from SNAP recipients themselves to government agencies to those who are on the front lines of the fight against poverty. We have found successes and innovative solutions, and we've identified gaps in the system and areas for improvement. As I've said before, no one program will end hunger or poverty. Everyone, federal, state, and local governments, not-for-profits in the private sector, academia, and recipients themselves has a role to play in this fight. SNAP is only one part of our country's safety net, but this committee's job is to make it as effective and efficient as possible and ensure that it works in tandem with other federal, state, and private sector programs. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today as we explore opportunities to improve access to food. The future of SNAP is full of promising innovations in food delivery, purchasing, and other areas. These are innovations we cannot ignore, but we must balance innovation with program integrity to ensure that taxpayer dollars are spent effectively. I want to thank each of the witnesses for being here and lending your expertise. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back. Thank you.
Generally yields back. Comments, Mr. McGovern, you might make?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too want to thank my colleague, Congresswoman Jackie Walorski. I have the privilege of serving with her on the Nutrition Subcommittee, and she's a great friend and a great leader, and I look forward to continuing to work with her on these issues. So after 18 hearings, what have we learned? We have learned that the SNAP program is a powerful tool for improving nutrition, insulating families against hardship, and lifting people out of poverty. It is effective, and it is efficiently run. The very modest benefit, which averages about $1.40 per person per meal, helped to keep over 10 million people out of poverty in 2012, including almost 5 million kids. So when I reflect on the lessons learned from our hearings on SNAP during the 114th Congress, I think about the overwhelming supportive testimony that we have heard from witnesses about the structure of the SNAP program and its ability to reduce food insecurity among our most vulnerable constituents. We've learned that charities do great work, but they can't do it alone. We've learned that it's a bad idea to radically change the SNAP program. It is working as intended. Not once have we heard from our witnesses that block granting SNAP will reduce hunger or strengthen this program. In fact, we've heard the opposite. And if we want to talk about improving access to food, we should be discussing ways to increase SNAP benefits. If anything, the average benefit of $1.40 per person per meal is too low. The Recovery Act temporarily increased SNAP benefits, and we saw an increase in food expenditures by low-income households, a reduction in food insecurity, and improvements in diet quality, especially amongst children. We ought to find ways to increase access to food by piloting the use of SNAP benefits online, strengthening employment and training programs, expanding SNAP education, incentivizing the purchase of more nutritious foods. We ought to address the issue of the cliff, among many other things. All of that would require an increased investment, but I think the return on that investment would be enormous. Now, I have no idea what a Trump administration coupled with a Republican Congress means for the future of SNAP or other safety net programs. I'm worried. Quite frankly, I'm terrified. But I spend a lot of time on this stuff. I spend a lot of time with people on SNAP. They don't fit a stereotype. Many are unemployed, and many of them work. The majority who benefit from SNAP are kids and senior citizens. These are good people. They are our neighbors. And yet too often they are ridiculed and their plight is belittled in the halls of this Congress. That is wrong. So after 18 hearings, we have learned from both majority and minority witnesses that SNAP is not only a good program, but a very good program. It works. And if next year the Republican leadership wants to block grant or cut the program or put more hurdles in place to deny people a benefit to put food on their table, be prepared for one hell of a fight, because this is a fight worth having. No one, and I mean no one, should go hungry in the United States of America. I thank the chairman. I yield back my time.
Jim yields back. Now turn to our witnesses finally. Thank each and every one of you for being here. We've got Mr. Eric French, who's Director of Grocery at Amazon, Seattle, Washington. We have Mr. Gunnar Lovelace, founder, co-CEO of Thrive Market, Marina del Rey, California. We have Mr. Michael Bill, Chief Operating Officer for Ball's Food Store in Kansas City, Kansas. Ms. Pamela Hess, Executive Director of Arcadia Center for Sustainable Food and Agriculture in Alexandria, Virginia. And I'd like to ask Mr. Lucas to introduce our final witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would like to introduce Melinda Newport, the Director of the WIC Child Nutrition Programs with the Chickasaw Nation's Department of Health this morning. She's been with the Chickasaw Nation since 1990 and lives in Stonewall, Oklahoma. And I would note for the record, from the perspective of both herself and myself as good Okies, this is Statehood Day in Oklahoma, 109th anniversary of Oklahoma joining the Union. So for all of you who are not familiar with that, you know something extra now. Again, Melinda, thank you for joining us this morning, and we look forward to hearing about the great work going on in Oklahoma. Yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I was unaware that today is Statehood Day for Oklahoma, so good stuff there.
Wasn't Republic Day, but Statehood Day.
I got you. All right, with that, Mr. French, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Conaway, Ranking Member Peterson, and committee members. My name is Eric French, and I'm Amazon's Director of Grocery. Amazon's mission is to be Earth's most customer-centric company. That isn't just a motto. Rather, it is how we approach every product or service we design. We start with the customer and work backwards. This approach has served our customers and Amazon well. This is also the approach we take as we envision the future of the SNAP program. We're very excited about the prospect of bringing SNAP into the 21st century. The benefits of doing so are quite clear. SNAP recipients would have access to value, selection, and convenience that isn't always available in their own community. Not every community is home to a grocery store, let alone multiple stores that carry a broader selection of foods and provide the opportunity to comparison shop. For the elderly and individuals with disabilities, even a nearby grocery store can be difficult to access due to mobility challenges. And single-parent families and those lacking transportation still confront challenges in getting to the grocery store, even if there is one nearby. Access to online grocery shopping can mitigate all of these challenges and more. E-commerce provides value by enabling consumers to choose the most affordable options when making purchase decisions, allowing them to stretch limited budgets further. Amazon's customers expect to find the lowest prices across our vast selection, so we do the hard work for them. We monitor prices, both offline and online, in order to make sure we offer the lowest prices available. And just as we have throughout the history of e-commerce, we will invent new ways of delivering products to our customers in a secure manner. We also know that SNAP payment security is top of mind for policymakers. Current SNAP regulations require the use of a customer PIN at checkout. The capability to accept PINs for online debit transactions is not widespread, largely because technology exists to more effectively secure transactions and authenticate customers. As a technology company and an e-commerce retailer, Amazon continues to innovate around security and authentication to protect our customers. I would like to share two principal recommendations with the committee as you continue to examine what the future of SNAP should look like. First, we believe that the SNAP regulations should be modernized to take into account e-commerce. The current SNAP regulations were written for a brick-and-mortar SNAP program, yet there are unique opportunities and challenges associated with a SNAP program in the e-commerce space. The committee and USDA should consider modernizing the SNAP program regulations to take into account the many learnings expected from the online pilot. Amazon stands ready to share our expertise and be part of this process. Second, we believe that the regulations around payments should not be technology-specific, but should provide flexibility for innovation and to take into account e-commerce transactions. Amazon shares the goal of ensuring online SNAP payments are secure. PINs may make sense in a brick-and-mortar setting, but they are expensive to implement online and are not the best available technology. Regulations should provide some flexibility for innovation around security to better protect SNAP recipients and mitigate new security risks that may emerge. Congress and the USDA should develop a framework that ensures the security of these transactions without prescribing a specific technology which can quickly become obsolete. In conclusion, Amazon is very excited about the interest of Congress in exploring the benefits of expanding the SNAP program to e-commerce. We are excited about this prospect and stand ready to assist Congress and the USDA during the upcoming pilot program and beyond. Thank you for inviting me to testify. I look forward to your questions.
Let the record reflect, he yielded back with an extra minute left. Thank you very much, Mr. French. Mr. Lovelace, your 5 minutes.
Chairman Conway, distinguished members of the committee, it's an honor to be here with you all today to be able to testify about how technology and expanding access to healthy food has the potential to save billions of dollars in downstream medical costs in our economy. My name is Gunnar Lovelace. I'm the founder and co-CEO of Thrive Market. Our mission is to make healthy living easy and affordable to everybody. The way that we do that is we buy directly from brands and cut out all the middlemen, offering the highest quality organic groceries that you would get at a normal health food store, but at 25 to 50% off. Instead of making money on the product sales themselves, we charge a $60 annual membership fee, which allows members all over the country to be able to order online and be able to get those groceries shipped to their home. For every paid membership, we give a membership away to a low-income family, a veteran, a teacher, or a student. The mission of making healthy living affordable and accessible to everybody is something that's deeply personal to me. I grew up very poor with a single mom, saw how hard she worked to make healthy choices, and when my mother remarried, my stepfather was running a food co-op out of a farm where I got to see firsthand the power of group buying as a way to make food more affordable and build community. As I progressed in my entrepreneurial career, starting and selling a couple software companies, I felt like there was an incredible opportunity to disrupt access to healthy food. In the last 2 years, we've been able to do that with our investors, our co-founders, our hardworking employees, and our members. We've gone from one employee working out of my house to working out of the back room of a church to now more than 600 employees nationally. This is a vision that we care about very, very deeply. We've raised over $140 million from 350 investors, and it's something that we're excited to continue. As we know, we face huge health epidemics in this country that are really systemic from pervasive lifestyle disease. More than 70% of our population is overweight or obese. We spend $245 billion a year on diabetes-related illnesses, $444 billion a year on heart-related illnesses. These are just two examples of lifestyle diseases that are largely driven by dietary habits. The numbers are only increasing in a negative trend, and they disproportionately affect low-income communities. Today, you can buy almost anything online, but you cannot use your SNAP benefits to use e-commerce to get healthy food for less. This is a classic example of the digital divide, and it's something that we've been focused on because 50% of the families that are in our giving program that receive free memberships are on SNAP. One of the biggest concerns that we've heard about bringing SNAP online is the potential for fraud and abuse. We understand the concern, yet e-commerce is a fundamentally database-driven technology that allows for extreme precision in classification and reporting, meaning that 100% of the funds that go towards purchasing online can go towards 100% approved SNAP products. Not only that, we're able to provide incredibly precise, transparent, and real-time reporting to the USDA on aggregate purchasing behavior in a way that doesn't exist amongst current national retailers who accept SNAP. On June 27th of this year, we launched a national campaign in support of the USDA committing to a firm timeline to bring SNAP online. We assembled a broad coalition of influencers, bloggers, nonprofits, and brands that we work with to have a synchronized conversation around this that drove over 325,000 petitions, 400 million media impressions around this issue. And we understand that SNAP is a very complex, often controversial program, and we applaud the USDA in their efforts to have a thorough, deliberate, and transparent process. Partially in response to our campaign, the USDA committed to a specific timetable of launching a pilot program in a few key states in the first half of 2017. We've obviously applied for this program. We're excited to be part of it. But even if we don't get into the pilot in the first wave, we're excited to see that SNAP is coming into the 21st century. I think philosophically speaking, one of the things that's so gratifying about the work that we do, and I know that you guys can all relate to this, is that helping people access healthy food, helping people live a healthier lifestyle is a hyper-scalable organizing principle that transcends ideology. It doesn't matter who you are, where you live, what the color of your skin is. Everybody wants to feel good in their bodies. Everybody wants the same thing for their children. And when we help people access healthy food for less, we're empowering families across this country. We're empowering communities, but we're also dealing with major macroeconomic issues with spiraling medical costs. It's an honor to be here to discuss how technology can drive innovation. We're excited to be part of that with SNAP in the long term. We're building all sorts of other health incentive programs. So we look forward to the opportunities to collaborate, and we look forward to your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Lovelace. I appreciate that. Mr. Beal, 5 minutes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Peterson, and members of the committee. My name is Mike Beal, and I am the Chief Operating Officer of Ball's Food Stores. It is an honor and privilege to be here with you today. Ball's Food Stores is a locally owned, third-generation, family-owned company started by Molly and Sidney Ball in 1923. We currently own and operate 27 retail grocery stores in the greater Kansas City metropolitan area under a few different banners, but primarily Hen House and Price Chopper Foods. Our stores are full-service supermarkets and have accepted SNAP as a form of tender essentially since each location opened. Ball's Food Stores provides jobs in our local community for approximately 3,200 teammates. We operate a small distribution center that operates primarily to allow us to buy large quantities of merchandise and to purchase and distribute local produce for our stores. Ball's Food Stores is one of the early adopters of the buy local produce movement nationally, so much so that we worked with the Kellogg Foundation in their efforts to develop a distribution model to bring fresh, nutritious, and affordable food to consumers around the country. Ball's Food Stores is a member of the National Grocers Association, and I was honored when NGA asked me to share our story and successes with the Double Up Food Bucks program with this committee. I believe our success with the program has been fantastic for the communities our stores serve and our SNAP customers, who are now able to stretch their benefits further while purchasing local produce and supporting local farmers in our communities. The Double Up program operated by Balls Foods is a result of a collaboration between Balls Foods and 5 other entities. The primary goals of the program are to, 1, provide access to and increase affordability of fresh fruits and vegetables for recipients of SNAP benefits. 2, provide greater opportunities for local farmers to increase their income by selling more produce locally. And 3, provide more dollars to the local community. In 2015, we launched a pilot Double Up program in 4 of our Price Chopper stores. A 5th Price Chopper was added in late 2015. Because of our success, we were able to convert the pilot to a year-round program operating in all 14 of our Price Chopper stores in 2016. The premise of the Double Up program is very simple. For each dollar a SNAP customer spends on local produce using an EBT card to pay, that customer earns $1 to spend on fresh produce on a future shopping trip, up to $25 per day in earnings. The earnings by the SNAP customer are accumulated throughout the year until that customer notifies our cashier that they want to spend some or all of their earnings on any type of produce on a later shopping trip. The execution of the Double Up program relies primarily on technology currently being used by many grocers. First, we designate local produce items using a simple product code for each locally grown item. Second, our point-of-sale system is programmed to look for transactions in which local produce items are purchased using an EBT benefit card for payment. And lastly, when customers shop at our Price Chopper stores using their loyalty card, that customer's earnings from the purchase of local produce items is then accumulated by our loyalty software system for future produce spending, by that customer, whether or not an EBT card is used on the future purchase. This allows our SNAP customers to purchase healthy produce items throughout the year. Additional components of the program are properly identifying local produce items using specific signage in the produce department, properly training store produce teammates, management teammates, and cashiers, and establishing relationships with local farmers. A solid distribution system for local products is crucial to having a strong program, as this adds to the local produce variety. If there isn't a fairly good selection of locally grown produce items that are well marked in the produce department, customers get frustrated and are less likely to use the program. Much of the success of our program can be attributed to our cashiers, who have been tasked with the job of explaining the program to SNAP customers. Many customers believe there was a catch because no one gets something for free for doing something they would like to do if they had the financial resources to purchase healthier food products. The pilot was designed so that the purchase history of SNAP customers could be measured over time to determine if the program has led to the purchase of healthier food items by SNAP customers. Our program partners are currently analyzing our massive data collection to confirm healthier purchase habits by SNAP customers. There were 9,874 different unique customers that participated in our pilot program, and those customers accounted for over 23,400 Double Up transactions. Over 60% of the Double Up dollars earned were redeemed, a very high redemption rate according to other grocers. The high redemption rate in our stores has actually increased to over 70% as of May 2016. We at Balls Food Stores strongly believe that the Double Up program has encouraged our customers to eat healthier and to try new fruits and vegetables. We believe the Double Up program is very feasible and can be replicated by most grocers around the country. In just a few months, thousands of SNAP families were able to take part in the Double Up pilot program. Programs like Double Up are important in that they incentivize customers without mandating the purchase of healthy food. In my opinion, a free market-based program is always preferable to a mandated government program. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Beal. Appreciate that. Ms. Hess, 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Pamela Hess. I'm the Executive Director of Arcadia, and I'm beyond excited to be here this morning. I came to the nonprofit food world from national security journalism. I covered the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and consequently, I spent a lot of time visiting people who'd been injured at Walter Reed. And as you know, the signature injury of those wars is a lower limb amputation. So fast forward to 2013, when I joined the nonprofit Arcadia Center for Sustainable Food and Agriculture as Executive Director here in D.C. Arcadia is dedicated to, among other things, dismantling the barriers to a healthy diet, which in D.C. tend to be geography and income, and we reconnect the urban core to the rural economy. The first time I went into the low food access neighborhoods that we serve, I saw a remarkable number of people in wheelchairs and on crutches with amputated limbs, and I thought they were war veterans. My staff told me I was wrong. They have diabetes. So here's some perspective. There are about 1,500 amputations from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan over 10 years of war, a result of a very diabolical and determined enemy. Do you know how many diabetic amputations there are in the United States in a given year? Let's look at 2010, 73,000 in 1 year. This is not a health system problem, or at least not just a health system problem. This is also a food system problem. It's about what you eat. But what you eat is largely dictated by the food that is convenient and affordable to you. For most low-income people in this city, that means processed and convenience foods, the excessive consumption of which correlates strongly with chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, obesity, and many forms of cancer. We can't condemn people for making bad choices if they don't have a choice to begin with, at least not a convenient and affordable one. So Arcadia's mobile markets are trying to change that. Our mobile markets are rolling farm stands that sell a complete healthy diet at affordable prices in convenient locations. You have our schedule in front of you. We make 14 regular weekly stops in our area. Because we exclusively serve low-income neighborhoods, we accept 8 forms of tender at least, each of which has unique rules. So for instance, we double SNAP for fruits and veggies as well as proteins, and the fruits and veggies come through the Food Insecurity Nutrition Incentive Program that you all funded in the last Farm Bill, and we thank you for that because it's making a powerful impact on our customers. But all of those forms of tender make for a really complex point of sale that can be frustrating for my staff, a few members of whom are here today, and certainly for our customers. So in 2015, we helped design and started using a custom iPad-based mobile point-of-sale system that we use out at our mobile markets. Our partner is Perigee Labs. It's called the Arcadia Farmers Register, and like other point-of-sale systems, it speeds transactions, it improves our accounting, and it helps us manage our inventory. But more importantly, it collects data that gives us keen insight into what our SNAP customers are purchasing, where, when, and how they're using Finny to maximize their nutrition per dollar. As near as I can tell, we're the only farmers market or farm stand using something like this. And so here's what we know from our data. And first, the big picture. Our customers, the vast majority of whom are low income, have pumped nearly $468,000 in new revenue into the rural economy, into the hands of farmers in the Mid-Atlantic since 2012. That is a powerful vote for healthy food. Since 2012, the mobile market's annual revenues have increased by more than 400% with no marketing budget while serving some of the poorest neighborhoods in D.C. That is another vote. It's all by word of mouth. Because we locate in the neighborhoods where folks who use SNAP live, work, or go to school, we have a disproportionate impact on this community. So let's be clear. We are small, we're adorable, we roll around town selling vegetables out of the back of the green bus. So let's modulate our expectations here. We do less than 2% of all farmers market business in Washington, D.C., but we redeem 30% of all SNAP benefits at farmers markets in Washington, D.C. And that's because we are convenient, we are affordable, our food is first quality, it is not gleaned, it is not borrowed from other farmers markets at the end of the day. And if you still wonder whether people on SNAP want healthy food, here you go. In 2012, our average SNAP customer took home about $7.50 worth of food from the mobile market. That has nearly tripled to $19 per SNAP transaction at the mobile market in this last year. So Finny encourages healthy purchases. And again, this is what you all funded in the Farm Bill. Our SNAP customers are the most likely among all of our low-income customers to reach into their pockets for cash to buy even more food. That's important because it means our SNAP customers value the food enough to buy it without the 50% discount they're getting from Finny. When our SNAP customers also use cash, they spend an additional $6.93 per transaction on average, and that goes straight into local farmers' pockets. In 2015, 70% of our SNAP transactions included produce. In 2016, the total was 81%. That is a bold upward trend for produce. So let me repeat that. Because of Finny, the popularity of produce is trending up. Now for the nitty-gritty. The top 4 products sold to our SNAP customers in 2016 were fruits and veggies. We sold 972 pounds of apples, 860 pounds of peaches, 514 pounds of onions, 409 pounds of kale. In the last 2 years since we instituted our point of sale system, we've sold 675 pounds of apples, 1,475 pounds of peaches, 1,098 pounds of cantaloupe, 812 pounds of potatoes, and 796 pounds of kale. We are demonstrating every day that if you make wholesome food affordable and convenient, low-income people will purchase it and consume it in ever-increasing amounts. That's good for the rural economy, and it's great for public health. I look forward to your questions. Please ask me about Yvonne Smith, one of our customers.
Thank you, Ms. Hess. You'll need to learn to talk a little quicker. Ms. Duport for 5 minutes.
Great job.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for the invitation to present testimony today. I would particularly like to acknowledge Congressman Lucas and thank you for your many years of service to Oklahoma citizens. My name is Melinda Newport. I'm Director of WIC and Child Nutrition Programs with the Chickasaw Nation. I bring you greetings from Bill Anatubby, Governor of the Chickasaw Nation. The Chickasaw Nation has more than 63,000 citizens, and our jurisdictional boundaries encompass 13 counties in south central Oklahoma. We administer several USDA F&S programs as well as a variety of nutrition-related demonstration and research projects. As a registered dietitian, having worked at the national level on many challenging nutrition program issues over the last 30 years, I am pleased to share the innovation in our Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act demonstration to end childhood hunger, also known as PACT Promise. Although we administer a number of federal, state, and tribally funded nutrition programs, we still find there are gaps in rural areas, evidenced by the fact that 15% of households remain food insecure. 1 in 4 children in Oklahoma experience hunger. Transportation is often an issue among the food insecure clients, and limited access to grocery stores with quality food choices in rural areas is common. To help eliminate these barriers, as well as the stigma often associated with food assistance programs, the idea for direct mail food benefit via an online grocery shopping experience was conceived. The Pact Promise project is designed to test the viability of an online ordering system and home delivery of food benefits to households with school-age children who qualify for free school meals. A unique feature of the Pact Promise project is the partnership between the Chickasaw Nation and Feed the Children, a nonprofit food assistance organization. This public-private partnership with Feed the Children provides logistics experts, a broad network of volunteers, and the food buying power to allow an increased number of children to be served for far fewer dollars. Families choose from 5 food packages comprised of nutrient-dense, shelf-stable food items from a food ordering website. A couple examples of the food packages may be found in the printed version of this testimony. Each child receives 1 25-pound box of shelf-stable foods plus a $15 fresh check to purchase fresh or frozen fruits and vegetables at Chickasaw Nation WIC-authorized retailers or farmers markets. This benefit provides adequate food for an evening meal plus 1 snack each day, intended to supplement the National School Lunch Program. The overall goal for the food package is to provide a well-balanced, nutrient-dense food benefit that offers commonly accepted foods while providing exposure to a few unfamiliar, wholesome food options. Foods requiring minimal preparation were included to accommodate the potential that youth may prepare meals on their own. The direct mail food benefit is intended to alleviate episodic food insecurity by delivering the food package at the time of the month when SNAP benefits would likely have run out. To date, Pact Promise has provided benefits to an average of 3,500 children for each of the past 9 months. USDA has commissioned a rigorous independent evaluation of the project to be performed by Mathematica Policy Research to look at the change in the prevalence of food insecurity among children, improvement in diet quality, and evaluation of costs associated with the project. A couple of anecdotes I'd like to share. A grandmother shopped with her grandchildren to let them choose their fruits and vegetables with their fresh check. One child chose a pineapple. The grandmother was unfamiliar with how to cut up a fresh pineapple, so she looked up a how-to video on YouTube. Her children loved it, and she said it was their first time to try fresh pineapple. A grateful father called to express appreciation for the program and said it not only helps financially, but it has also changed some of his family's eating habits, such as eating more beans, tomatoes, and vegetables that do not normally choose to buy. He said this has provided healthier options for his family. Chairman Conaway, we appreciate the committee's commitment to ensuring the viability, strength, and quality of federal nutrition programs, and in particular, a focus on innovations that might enhance the effectiveness of our country's largest nutrition safety net program. In conclusion, it appears online ordering of foods and direct shipment to the home is a viable model for addressing food insecurity for rural families while ensuring access to more nutritious foods. Investment by federal nutrition programs in targeted foods of high nutritional quality and educational support to assist families in using those optimally is critical to reducing food insecurity as well as avoiding many costly chronic diseases, as we've heard. Thank you for the opportunity to share our experience. I look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Newport. The chair will remind members they'll be recognized for questioning in order of seniority for members who are here at the start of the hearing. After that, members will be recognized in order of arrival. I appreciate my colleagues' understanding. I recognize myself for 5 minutes. First off, thank you very, very much. I'm not sure I've had 5 witnesses give us as much good news about a hard topic as you folks have just given us. It's particularly gratifying to see you not waiting on the federal government. You're reaching out. You're doing things in your own spaces that you believe are in the best interest of Americans, and I really appreciate and thank you for that. quite frankly, you're a lot more nimble than at addressing issues than any government body can be, and appreciate that. Mr. French, Mr. Lovelace, you both mentioned online transactions and security. Can you flush that out a little bit? How would that work without PIN numbers or without the normal circumstances with respect to a SNAP EBT card versus other credit cards that people might use? How would we know that the SNAP beneficiary that's using that card online is actually the person that's supposed to be using it? Can you walk us through a little bit of that?
Sure, I'll go first. So, first of all, like I mentioned in my testimony, we absolutely share the committee's focus and prioritization on preventing fraud within the SNAP program. I'm probably not the best person to go super deep on the actual kind of technical implementation, so happy to kind of follow up on that offline. But what I can say is, we've spent some time researching this, and we do think that the current PIN-based solution is probably not the optimal solution, that there are alternatives out there, new mechanisms that are actually more secure. And if we're selected into the pilot, look forward to working with the USDA in exploring that further.
Ms. Lovely, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, the PIN issue, I think, has been one of the primary reasons that getting SNAP online has moved slowly. And I know that one of the primary processors fell out of the program, and I think that caused a major delay. We had been talking to the USDA more than 2 years ago about trying to accept transactions online, and I know it was a payment processing issue was one of the primary concerns. I think that the beauty of e-commerce is it is a database-driven technology, so it allows for us to categorize our products. When people are purchasing online, we can filter. We filter our entire catalog by different lifestyle preferences or different types of users. So we can completely filter the catalog for somebody who is on SNAP and is making a SNAP purchase in a way that only allows for funds to go to SNAP-approved products. And I think one of the challenges that exists in the current retailer economy is that it's very hard to actually get reporting on aggregate purchasing behavior. Where are these funds going? How are they being used? It's like a black box. And yes, there's data, but it's actually very hard to get down in very granular reporting. And the beauty of using e-commerce is that it's so transparent. We can provide real-time. When we met with the USDA. We say, hey, we can give you a real-time API hook into our database if you want, and we can provide transparency.
Appreciate that. Mr. Bill, you mentioned your Double Up program and also evaluating, as Mr. Lovelace talked about, the purchasing patterns of the folks who were in your tests. Can you tell us how you fund your Double Up program? Is that your own company does that, or you partner with not-for-profits? How do you make everybody whole and still get the extra food for the recipients?
Yes, thank you. Initially, during the pilot program, it was our understanding, at least we were told, that the program was funded by a philanthropist, and they wanted to demonstrate that the program that was initially implemented in farmers markets up in the state of Michigan could be replicated and expanded with greater access to consumers in retail grocery stores. That was in 2015. In 2016, it's my understanding that some of our local partners, and about 3 of those partners are nonprofits, have applied for a grant and apparently received a grant from the USDA to expand the program out, and that's my understanding for 2016, sir.
All right. And your evaluation on purchasing patterns for the folks who use your Double Up bucks, you said that's in process. When do you think you'll have that information?
I would expect to have that done within the next couple months. And contrary to what maybe has been stated by some of the online retailers, we have the ability, if we needed to provide real-time reporting of SNAP purchasers' history down to the very item. We can replicate the entire receipt of any consumer, just like when you go into a Best Buy or Home Depot, retailers that I think all of you can relate to. They have all that purchase detail. So it's just a massive data out there, but with the proper setup, there's no problem reporting on any of that.
Well, thank you. We've got every member wants to ask questions. And again, thank you all for being here. Mr. Peterson, recognize you for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I represent an area that's very large, rural, remote, and I don't know, this might be a good idea, but I think that everybody on the committee and you guys should go to Panema, Minnesota before we do this. because
Is that part of Chamber of Commerce pool? You get everybody
well,
to spend money
it's on the Red Lake Reservation, which is Indian Reservation, which is 900,000 square miles. And I think it's an hour and some to any grocery store. And you can't get there unless you're going there. I mean, the road ends, and it isn't the end of the world, but you can see it from there. Or you go to Gregla or Washkish or Funkley in Mr. Nolan's district. So those folks are having trouble now accessing SNAP. But, maybe this is a good idea. They'll be able to, but they don't have internet, a lot of them either. And the stores up there don't have internet. And I don't know who's going to pay for delivering this stuff out there. I mean, if they can use their SNAP benefits, and if somebody will pay for the delivery, we don't take it out of the money that, for them, it might be a good idea. But, so I think if we're going to do some kind of demonstration or pilot project, one of the areas should be some place like this. So we see, what happens in that kind of a situation. 'Cause I have a lot of those places in my district. I think Mr. Nolan has in his district, and there's other places in the country as well. So, I'm not even sure, there's maybe 2 towns in my district where you can get delivered groceries. I'm not even sure about that, so I don't know, are they looking at, when they're doing these pilots, are they looking at having additional appropriations to pay for the delivery, or is there going to be no charge for the delivery, and how is that all going to work? I don't know who wants to answer that, but.
It's our understanding that we would be paying for the delivery, and our business model is set up to be able to do that. So we're also leveraging existing last mile infrastructure, which makes it a lot more efficient for us. And we share your concern about those types of extremely rural communities. We did a program recently with Sioux up in North Dakota where we delivered groceries to some of the most disadvantaged folks.
Whereabouts in North Dakota?
I actually I don't know exactly where it was, but I know it was on the Sioux Reservation. And, to your point, there's many times in the winter where groceries aren't even being delivered. And it's one of the highest rate of diabetes in the country. So I think, I'm not going to speak for Amazon, but we're prepared to be able to make a way to be able to absorb the shipping costs.
Are you going to undermine the few stores that we have out there if you take away their business?
I think that's a fair concern. Our products are pretty different than the types of products that they would be offering because we specialize in organic groceries. But I think that one of the things that we've seen is that while there's concern about existing retailers or health food stores with our model because we're so disruptive with pricing, what we're seeing is that 50% of our customers in the Midwest and the South. So we're bringing a new customer into the market that's wanting to do this. And I think, to another point that you made, the data that we've seen is 75% of low-income communities have a smartphone. And so while they may not have internet, they're able to purchase using their smartphone.
If they can get cell service. My farm up north, I don't have cell service.
You have to go to a local hill.
If you can help us get more cell phone towers, we'd appreciate it. So, it's a nice thing sometimes when nobody can get a hold of you. But anyway, how about Amazon? Are you guys willing to eat the delivery fee, or how does that work?
Yeah, sure. So right now, we deliver non-perishable groceries nationwide. So all the people in your areas have the ability to order grocery products, non-perishable grocery products on Amazon right now. We offer perishable grocery products through our Amazon Fresh service, which is available in a number of regions, including many of the states in which the USDA has proposed to run the pilot. In terms of the fees, we have a few different ways that customers can buy groceries on Amazon, some of which do require a membership fee or have delivery charges. The SNAP funds would definitely not go towards that. If accepted into the pilot, we are, absolutely kind of interested in working with the USDA on ways to structure the implementation of the pilot to reduce and potentially eliminate those membership fees or delivery charges.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My time's expired.
Gentleman yields back. Mr. Nagelbauer, 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. French, did you say that you have applied to be a part of the pilot program with USDA?
Yes, we have applied.
And so I guess when you said you're doing nationwide on a non-perishable, and then you're doing regional for the perishable foods, are those regions primarily in major metropolitan areas at this particular point in time?
Yes, so the Amazon Fresh service, which is our service for delivering full-line grocery assortment, including perishable groceries, tends to be more concentrated in urban and suburban regions right now. Certainly our intent over time would be to be able to service SNAP customers nationwide, with kind of some combination of the various programs and services that we have for delivering grocery products on Amazon.
Would that be partnershiping with suppliers in those regions where you cut down on the distance to the final customer?
Yeah, it's tough for me to comment on the exact specifics of how we do it and kind of what the implementation specifics would be until we're actually accepted into the pilot program. So unfortunately, there's not much more I can share on that.
Mr. Beal, you said that the pilot incentive program has been successful in your program. The incentive program has been successful. So when you talk to your customers who are SNAP recipients, what are the top reasons that they give you that they want to participate in this incentive? Why are they responding to that incentive, and what do they say to you about that?
I believe that we provided electronic copies, so there'll be more detail of the program report that was actually prepared by our 5 partners. But generally speaking, the participants reported that they were better able to afford healthier fruits and vegetables, that they shifted more of their purchasing from prepared foods, center store, be it cereals, the processed foods that a lot of consumers buy, towards fresh fruits and vegetables. So you'll see in the report too that they have shifted their purchasing habits, provided healthier eating options for their families as a result of this program.
Mr. Lovelace, y'all kind of got into the conversation a little bit about the technology of making sure that people that are actually the SNAP recipients are the ones receiving the food. You said that, and I think both of you maybe alluded that the PIN technology may not be the answer to that. I was a little surprised at that because, when these recipients are going into a grocery store today, they're using a PIN. And in many cases, the grocer may or may not know whether that person using that card and actually that has the PIN is actually the person. So one kind of downside of the PIN, and secondly, what's the technology that you would recommend?
Yeah, so we're actually prepared to use the PIN infrastructure. So we haven't specifically been pushing for that. Obviously, we believe in things being as efficient and secure as possible. And I think, to the earlier point, one of the main reasons that there has been a delay in bringing this on, even though it was mandated in the 2014 Farm Bill, is the issue of PINs and the balkanization of the processors and how that works. So my understanding is that there's been progress with the processors, and that there's going to be several states in the Northeast, especially in the first phase of the pilot, and that it will be a PIN-based technology approach, which we're comfortable implementing. From the beginning in our conversations with the USDA, we said we'd be happy to absorb the technology costs associated with making those types of secure transactions work. I think, in a world where you don't use PINs, it's, you look at actual fraud amongst credit card transactions in terms of people that are using credit cards that aren't actually theirs. It's actually incredibly low. And so and I think that there's a case to be made that it could be very much like a credit card transaction where you don't use a PIN. That said, we're not advocating for that specifically, and I think we'd have to all study that together and find.
Well, I know the credit card industry is working on, ways to prevent online fraud by using, cards, and so certainly that.
I mean,
technology-
it's definitely it's a real issue, but when you look at the total transaction size, it's still such a small part of it. But we're not advocating necessarily to abandon PINs.
Gentlemen, his time expired. Mr. Scott, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me direct this question to Mr. French and Mr. Lovelace. You are aware that there are efforts underway to restrict what SNAP recipients can purchase in the grocery store. Such things as food monitoring, food surveillance, to determine that. And my concern is, and I want to see if it's your concern, that the expansion of SNAP to be used online could make it easier to restrict and limit the amount of food, the types of food, and purchases that are bought with SNAP dollars. How do you make sure that this is not happening?
I mean, that's obviously a complex question, and I haven't honestly spent all that much time thinking about that particular aspect of it. I think you're hitting on privacy issues. I think also, I personally think it's a good thing that there's the ability to see transparently and accurately where funds are going, given it's a massive taxpayer program. And I think at the end of the day, the approach to all of this has to be data-driven. So what are the types of products that people can use with SNAP that are actually going to be healthy for them? And my hope is that the data can transcend any ideological ideas around that.
All right, let me be more specific here. Let me go to you, Mr. French. How would Amazon ensure that all of the items, all the food purchases that a SNAP recipient can get in the grocery store are the same that he can get online, and that there are no efforts in between to use this online service as a way to restrict the food stamp recipient from getting the same thing that he can get? Because it's almost impossible, and many have already said that with brick and mortar, with the grocery store, you really can't restrict that. That's not my concern. We fought that battle. But online, there could be a way that you can use that instrument to limit the ability of food purchases by food stamps. So what would Amazon put in place to make sure that doesn't happen?
Sure, yeah, so it's difficult for me to comment on the exact specifics of how we would implement that, but what I can tell you is, Amazon, we're all about starting with the customer and working backwards, all about ensuring a great customer experience, and all about offering customers low prices, vast selection, and great convenience. And so we absolutely share the committee's interest in offering SNAP recipients access to as wide a range of foods as possible, and certainly would to do anything kind of counter to that would be counter to Amazon's intention to offer vast selection.
There is also a growing movement, and they use this quote healthy foods. Right, we fight that battle. To limit the items that the food stamp recipient can get only to healthy foods. And there's no definition for that. That's another way. So what would Amazon's position be on limiting items that can be purchased with stamp benefits to only, quote, healthy foods?
Sure. Again, it's a little difficult to comment on the exact specifics of implementation until we're accepted in the pilot. But what I can say is we absolutely believe in offering customers vast selection, offering them as many choices as possible, and in the case of SNAP recipients, offering them access to as broad a range of foods as possible to spend their funds on.
Thank you. Ms. Yvonne Smith, you shared Miss Melinda Harris, didn't you share a story of Yvonne Smith? Let me ask you something, and you shared how drastically she changed her diet. This hits home with me because in my state of Georgia, I have 1,121,495 people in my state of Georgia, adult population who have diabetes. That is 14.2% of the people. So I wanted to ask you, how do we reach people effectively and give them the tools to change their life like Miss Yvonne Smith did?
So Yvonne is one of our SNAP customers, and if y'all haven't read the longer testimony, she is 64 years old. She's a homeowner. Because her housing costs are more than 50% of her income, she qualifies for SNAP. She gets $16 a month. With our bonus bucks, dollar for dollar, we double that to $32. She's able to access some other promotional programs for fruits and veggies, so she gets an additional $80 on top of that per month. And with this, she buys vast quantities of greens, and salad greens. She cooks them up in giant batches and eats them all month. And what she told me this week is that she has brought her diabetes under control. She no longer suffers from it by completely changing what she eats. She cut out all processed food, all starchy white foods. So she's a true believer, and she gave me permission to share her story. The approach, there's an old saying, which is pay the farmer or pay the doctor, and I promise you paying the farmer is way cheaper. So that is sort of the basis of our promotion of SNAP and the Finney Incentive Program. You have to attack it from a couple of...
We'll do a second round. Your time is expired.
It is?
Yeah, yes. Mr. Lucas for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to turn to Director Newport. Chickasaw Nation has historically been very innovative, very aggressive in trying things. But we have, in addition to the Chickasaw Nation, 37 other federally recognized tribes in Oklahoma. Can you discuss for just a moment, I assume it's not just the Chickasaws, but the other tribes in the state too are trying, with the flexibility they've been given at different times, to be more innovative, correct, in delivering services and meeting the needs?
Yes, sir. Those opportunities are available to any tribe in most cases.
And to your knowledge, not just the Chickasaws, and you can't speak for anyone else, I realize, but the spirit of innovation at the Chickasaws is also out there in the other tribes too. We're trying hard in Oklahoma to maximize these opportunities.
Yes, I think there are unique innovations in different tribes around the state that, have tried different initiatives to better serve their clientele.
Mr. Beal, I live in the 3rd District of Oklahoma, kind of the west side of the district, the southern part of the Great Plains, the east side of the Rockies, some really rather interesting climates. And when I look at the concept of the Double Up Food Bucks program to encourage the purchase of local produce, a lot of times where I live, seasonally, there are not many options locally. With this kind of a program, my neighbors would say, if it works and it works well and it's so impressive, should people who live in areas where there are not local produce options always, should there be a greater opportunity to use not just local, but more local than that? And I'm sure your folks have looked at these issues, correct?
Well, we originally started our local produce program right after 2000, and while that may be the situation in Oklahoma, we would look to parts of the country that are both south of us and to the west of us as having greater growing opportunities than what we have in Missouri, just because of the weather is a great function of that. Our local produce program, for the most part, the majority of the items, 90% of the items, the season starts in mid to late May, continues throughout October. But we do have some local items that come in earlier that might be grown in greenhouses and the like. So It is something that you do have producers that are producing year-round, but with higher costs that have a different business model. But we work with, and we have defined for ourselves, our local market as being within 200 miles of Kansas City, and we work with over 150 local family farmers in that market.
Okay, you've answered my question about what local is then. Okay. To Mr. French, kind of like Ranking Member Peterson, I do sort of live at the end of the world too. And of course, my grandparents always refer to the catalog houses, the entities in this country in commerce that existed before the internet, the Sears Roebucks of the world and the Spiegels and the Montgomery Wards, who came into existence because of partial post. And before the postal department took up package delivery, if you lived out in the countryside, you didn't have many other options than the local merchant. But with the involvement of partial post, the ability to deliver packages 125 years ago, you could buy almost anything from those giant catalogs, a point that's always been made to me. Now we've evolved to the present time, working on the quality of the transportation system. There are a number of private delivery companies who deliver in my area and all over the world. Some are a little better than others at finding me. Some have a damn hard time finding me consistently. So I'm sure in your market model, you're working with the delivery services to constantly improve that concept, right? So that my 5-pound can of whatever winds up within 5 miles of my house.
Yes, correct. So, we've worked very hard over the last 20 years to develop a reputation for world-class operational excellence. And, that reputation encompasses kind of a number of dimensions, including what you're articulating, which is, the ability for customers to order an item on Amazon and have it arrive in the time period that they expect and have it arrive safely. So yes, absolutely something that we take very seriously. And as we think about the opportunity to serve SNAP recipients, it's something that we would certainly be looking to extend to a new customer set.
Thank you, Mr. French. Yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Mr. McGovern.
Well, thank you, and I want to thank all of you for being here today. I think it's important that we talk about new approaches that could be taken to improve access to food. I'm pleased that the USDA has begun the process of reviewing applications for the online purchase pilot, which is authorized in the last Farm Bill, and I look forward to continue our work to make it possible for SNAP recipients to purchase groceries online. I think it's an important step forward. I think it's also great to see Finney grants being put to good use to increase the consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables. Using a Finney grant, my home state of Massachusetts is in the process of expanding a pilot statewide to provide a dollar-for-dollar match on SNAP recipients' purchases of local fruits and vegetables. But I've said in the past that the most important thing we can do to improve access to nutritious food is to increase the current SNAP benefit and provide low-income Americans with more money to purchase nutritious foods. And Ms. Hess, your testimony makes a very strong point about the need for food to be affordable for those who are low income. What do you think the impact could be on your farmers and on your customers if we simply increase the SNAP benefit overall? And what do you think would happen to your farmers and customers if we cut the SNAP benefit?
The impact would be profound, and we have an example here in D.C. that demonstrates it. The Produce Plus program is a D.C. benefit for low-income people, $10 free fruits and vegetable voucher, and we have lines around the block, 90, 100 people waiting to get $10 in free fruits and vegetables every day at the mobile market when the program's going. We have our SNAP sales, the base sales each year are about $22,000, but the Produce Plus sales are $77,000, and we turn people away all the time because we run out of vouchers. There is a massive demand for this stuff, and what people need are the resources and be able to access it. The profound impact that increasing the amount and affordability and ubiquity of healthy food could have on public health is staggering, right? We're looking at $500 billion TR dollars that we're spending on diseases, treating diseases that we don't have to have. They are caused by the food that we eat. So if we change the food that everybody eats. And I'm not just talking about low-income people, I'm talking about all of us. 39 states, 40% of the people are overweight and obese. I'm overweight. It's hard to eat healthy. And if you add on top of that the barriers to access, like you live 5 miles from a grocery store and you don't have a car and you don't have any money at the end of the month after you've paid for your diabetes medication, I don't know how you expect to change anything. And here's what's so important about it. I know everybody's on different sides of this issue politically, but people can't parent well and raise happy, healthy children who are ready to learn. And you can't work well if you are hungry, if you're wondering where your next meal is coming from, or if you had to spend your lunch money taking a cab because you were late for work that morning. It's super frustrating to me that this fundamental thing that is the sort of basis of all human health is even a debate. Right. If you cut anything, it should not be people's food.
Yeah. And I like your statement about pay the farmer or pay the doctor. One of the problems I think with the way we budget up here in Congress is that we all have our little areas of jurisdiction, and so your point about the fact that healthy, nutritious food actually is like medicine. It keeps us well. I mean, it could prevent diabetes, which is a lifelong illness. It could prevent heart disease. It could prevent obesity. And so by doing this right, there's all these avoidable healthcare costs that you can, that you don't have to pay for. Kids who go to school who are hungry don't learn. I mean, there's a cost to that. Workers who go to work who are hungry aren't as productive. I mean, there is a huge cost here, and we sometimes don't, we're looking at our little narrow area here, but the cost of hunger and food insecurity in this country is enormous. I gather from your testimony that you believe that access to healthy food is much more important than teaching people about healthy food. Maybe you can tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, ideally...
Not that teaching healthy food is bad. I'm just simply saying that we can teach all we want, but if you don't have access to it, so what?
What you said. Ideally, these things go hand in hand, and this answers also Mr. Scott's question. The first building block that you have to have is a lot of affordable, really high-quality food that people actually want to eat. The next step, then, is making sure that people know what to do with it, and people get exposed to it. We do a lot of taste tests at the mobile market. We do cooking demos. We have a cookbook that we give to our low-income customers so that they're inspired to cook at home. But I've got to tell you, just focusing on cooking skills is pretty short-sighted, because you can give everybody all the skills they want and even send them home with some knives and cutting boards, but if they don't have anything to cut, you haven't changed a thing. One of my customers, who is a Navy veteran and has a 3-year-old, she turns off the gas in her house on the summers to save $30 so that she can continue to eat well, and she eats mostly raw fruits and vegetables through the summer. So the chaos and the difficulty in being poor should not be underestimated, and it starts by making food affordable and high quality and ubiquitous.
Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired. Mr. Gibbs, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and you're right, this is a very interesting panel of all the hearings we've had on food stamps. And I love it because of the technology, and we talk about, Chairman Lucas is talking about, and Chairman Colin Peterson about living at the end of the world. I can see Amazon delivering food to these areas by drone, so hopefully we get the FAA regulations so that works. But what I want to talk a little bit about is the technology part that interests me. A few months ago, we had the auditor of the state of Ohio, to testify, he did a audit in Ohio, and what was going on in the food stamp program, the SNAP program. And we found out there is some fraud. I don't think it's a widespread problem, but there is some, and so we try to address it as best as we can. And we found out things like there was issues about some people had huge balances and weren't using it, so that was tying money up. We also discovered in one of our hearings that if we could go to, make it crediting the cards twice a month instead of once a month, that might help the food recipients, with their cash flow and budgeting. And so I guess my questions to Mr. French and Mr. Lovelace is, and I know Mr. Lovelace talked about, it's the database and that technology. The technology ought to help us in real time catch instances where there could be fraud. And so we've had instances, testimony of there's, some of the retailers can be fraudulent, and because we had testimony in his auditor's report where somebody would come in at the first of the month and spend the exact amount of dollars, like $200, and then go 8 minutes later to another
retailer and spend another 200. I mean, it's every month. It's like, I mean, that's very odd. You know, I can't go to the grocery store and spend the same amount to the penny every month. And so I guess you want to comment a little bit about technology. Could you flag those in real time and just, you know, like I kind of guess what I can do with credit cards now. If I use my credit card and it doesn't look like my normal procedures, I'll get an email from my credit card company asking, you know, if this is me or, so can you, I don't know if you want to expand on that. Because I think the question is when you hear about technologies, people get concerned maybe the possibility of more fraud, but I think it's the other way around. So go ahead.
Sure. So, you know, like I mentioned earlier, we absolutely share the committee's focus and prioritization on preventing fraud in the SNAP program. You know, at Amazon, we take customer trust and information security incredibly seriously. And so, if given the opportunity to participate in the USDA's pilot program, we absolutely look forward to the opportunity to leveraging the same world-class engineering that we use across Amazon to protect information security to the SNAP program on Amazon. Tough to comment on some of the exact specifics and the specific kind of areas you were mentioning, but it is absolutely...
Let me ask you a question. A thought came to my mind. Because my understanding, the state runs the programs for the USDA, right? And so somebody in Ohio goes in and uses their SNAP card, and it looks weird. The state has to flag it. And the question may be the state's not doing their job. How would Amazon or your outfit interact on the databases, or maybe you want to talk about that?
So my understanding is the processors for SNAP are very much like a merchant account for a credit card. So there is this layer of merchant account processors that verify security, all their types of fraudulent flagging systems, which are real time. That's why sometimes when you make a purchase and you put the wrong address, just normally with a credit card, the transaction isn't approved. So there's all sorts of best practices that exist today that can be applied to the SNAP program, which will allow for a lot of security around that. And I think to your point, you know, obviously there's understandable concern about fraudulent use and abuse, but I believe that there's going to be dramatically less of that given the way that there's so much transparency and reporting using a database-driven technology like e-commerce. And, you know, we looked at a study of a family in a food desert in downtown Los Angeles, for example. And this is not people on SNAP, but just in a food desert. 90% of the grocery purchases were happening at a little, you know, bodega or a liquor store or a fast food market. So what we're dealing with here is, you know, one of the beauties about being able to ship groceries nationally to people, be able to provide that, is that we can eliminate that in a very dramatic swoop.
Great. Well, I think we need to, you know, regulations, legislation needs to try to keep up with the technology because we can actually make real improvements and serve people that really need the help. So I yield back. Thank you.
Jones time expired. Ms. Delbini, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks to all of you for being with us today. I appreciate it. And I'm very interested in this pilot and the possibilities that it can bring to make sure that we are providing healthier, fresh, local food to a broader population, and definitely folks who have been underserved. You definitely can buy anything online, and there's no reason that that can't be true for SNAP participants as well. And I think we can learn a lot from CSAs that exist today that are providing some similar services. And definitely bringing these types of foods to more rural, traditional food deserts is certainly worth exploring, and so I appreciate the work that you're doing. I had a question for you, Mr. French, and thank you for being here today from Seattle. I read in your testimony, and I know you mentioned this in your opening statement, that you believe the PIN-based technology being used for SNAP EBT is not necessarily more secure than other available technologies. And so I was wondering, wouldn't a change in the method authentication mean we'd have to revamp the systems that are currently being used by the states?
You know, I'm actually probably not the best person to go into that in a ton of detail. It's a good question, but let us follow up with you offline on that. It's a good question.
And is that something that generally would be supported in terms of the change of how that system would work?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
By others. Well, I was kind of asking others if we were going to, if there was if folks thought the PIN-based technology or changing that to something that's more universal would be something that's important to others. Does anyone have a?
Yeah, so I think the delay in bringing SNAP online has been the processors and the ability to do the PIN-based transactions online. That's what our understanding is in the communication with USDA officials over the last 2 years. We transparently haven't heard a lot of discussion about moving away from the PIN system, but rather the focus has been how do we make sure that there's processors in place that can handle the PIN-based system online in a way that people like us can interact with in a real-time way. So there hasn't been a lot of discussion from our conversations with the USDA about moving away from a PIN-based system. We're not necessarily saying that we shouldn't move to more standard-based credit card transaction processes. But our approach to it has been we're totally willing to absorb and build a special user interface just to support PIN-based transactions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Okay, did anyone else want to say something? Oh, I couldn't tell. Go ahead.
If I could inject just a thought, and we're a brick and mortar retailer, but I would say with regard to PIN-based transactions, I know from our business, with just regular business with credit cards, our amount of fraud has increased by about 12 times, and I've also shared those concerns with other grocers, a large grocer out of the St. Louis, because we do not have PIN-based transactions now on general credit cards. The EMB card, and I know we're getting off subject, but with dealing with security with credit card transactions, the lack of a PIN-based system for credit cards has greatly increased our fraud in a brick and mortar stores. So it's hard for me to envision as a grocer how it would be more secure without something like that as just an anecdotal response.
Thank you.
If I may, farmers markets are really hobbled by the need to have that, it's the market link, it's a PIN-based program. They cost about $500 each, and so typically a farmer's market will have one, and anyone who's using SNAP goes to the market manager, they run their SNAP cards, they get tokens, they go to the farmers. There's a lot of problems with that program. If we can handle the security issues and get it so we can run EBT cards directly off of a Square or a similar card reader, that really just opens up farmers markets to a lot more SNAP transactions and a lot more healthy food for a lot of people, and it saves market managers a lot of trouble and cost. I spend about $100 a month just on my data fee for the market link.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And I know folks talked a little bit about cell service, but I also think broadband access, Wi-Fi access can be very difficult for many folks in rural areas or folks who don't have kind of a reliable online connection anywhere or even technology available. Do you have a sense of how much that would impact access for potential SNAP recipients who may want to use these types of services but don't regularly have any type of connection to do so?
So the data we've looked at is that 75% of low-income communities do have a smartphone. So obviously that's not perfect, but that's pretty profound. Whereas broadband internet access or desktop computers dramatically lower rates. So while I believe in getting broadband infrastructure to everybody, the practical realities and the time to market is so dramatically more expensive than it is to increase high-speed smartphone, cell phone access. So I think in terms of solving that problem, not only for this issue, but just broader educational access issues, the fastest way is going to be what third world developing countries have just skipped the hard infrastructure and gone straight to cell phone. So I think that that's the fastest way for us to solve this problem ubiquitously.
Okay, thank you. My time's expired. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I recognize myself for 5 minutes. I want to talk, Mr. Bill, raise a topic that we probably don't have enough time to talk about in 5 minutes that I have to address this, but I want to start a conversation about this, brick and mortar stores and how they differ from the online vendors and what role you might play in enhancing access. And for example, in my district, it's very rural. We have obviously small towns, but even remote areas I would classify not just rural, but remote. And so a scenario, for example, a town of 3,000, they've got a grocery store. But around that town of 3,000, 15, 20 miles away or more, small towns that maybe a town of 300. And the best they can hope for is a convenience store. And so as a grocer that occupies that space in the small town of 3,000, Could you become a distributor? Does it fit your model to go out to those small towns in a refrigerated truck and be able to deliver non-processed foods? Because as we've heard, and I know this to be the case, our healthcare statistics are not on an upward trajectory in rural America. And the irony is that in my district, for example, we're one of the most productive agriculturally in the nation, and yet we're in a food desert. And it has to do with the access to non-processed food. So if you would kind of go into some detail about how that you might be able to fit in that role to sort of serve as a distributor.
Thank you. I will tell you that we're currently doing that today.
Good.
We supply our local produce to other grocers around the Midwest, not just the Kansas City area. We sell local produce to grocers in Springfield, Missouri, 3 hours away, about 200 miles. We sell local produce to grocers up in Nebraska, over 3 hours away. And so it's a very good question. And for us particularly, it wouldn't be a challenge because we're currently doing that, and we see ourselves in that role. We distribute to our stores and to other stores over $5 million worth of locally grown produce every single year, and it's growing. So I mentioned in my presentation that the distribution system is critical. And visiting with Ms. Hess on the panel, that was one of the questions I asked for her before we started, but that distribution system is important. But we are set up to do that, and so it does provide a very important role in the distribution of these benefits to other potential markets.
Well, one of the benefits I get from being sort of on the latter end of the questioning is some of the dialogue that's taken place up to this point. Mr. Peterson mentioned this in the remote areas, and obviously we've talked about internet access, broadband being an issue in rural communities, and Mr. Lovelace, you addressed that with regard to enhanced cell phone infrastructure. And one of the things that Mr. Lucas addressed was the seasonality associated with those fresh foods. It's also a challenge. So I think grocers are in a unique position to address that, as you mentioned, using greenhouses and sourcing beyond just the local region. How does that play into your distribution model?
Well, we currently purchase produce from around the country. Okay, so we will bring in produce using common carriers from California, from Arizona, New Mexico, Georgia, and Florida. And obviously, that isn't local produce to us, but we source specialty product for our stores to make them a class above our competition. That's kind of one of the things that we try and do. And so, but having a facility to be able to do that, having trucks to distribute is critical. We are not our primary supplier to our stores for our groceries, our center store, because we have a wholesaler to do that. But what we have found in working with our wholesaler, who's in excess of a $10 billion company, I know that's peanuts when it comes to the Amazons of the world, but what we have learned, it's oftentimes more difficult the bigger the entity is to source from local, because number one, the local provider can't provide enough product for the big boys to service all of their customer needs. And so there's got to be kind of matching of the growers with the markets that they serve to make it as efficient as possible. Walmart would have a very difficult time of providing local produce because there's only slots in a warehouse that are available for perishable products because they have to be refrigerated and stuff. Not to say they can't do it, but the challenge I think is a little bit greater. It is for our wholesaler because they tried to roll out a program. And that's where we fit into that role much more uniquely than what they're able to.
Real quick, I've got 20 seconds. Were there any tax incentives that facilitated that decision for you to implement that model, or was it just something, a naturally occurring business phenomenon?
No, there were no tax incentives. It was consistent with our model of focusing on fresh and local and working with our local farmers and ranchers. As I mentioned, we've been working with them for over 15 years to start with, so it was a natural transition and expansion of the program for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My time's expired. Recognize Ms. Adams for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all of our panelists for being here today and for your insight. Many communities throughout the 12th District in North Carolina that I represent are located in food deserts, resulting in many of my constituents not being able to purchase a variety of fresh and nutritious foods from a local grocery store. I did want to just add that just a week and a half ago, we opened in my district in a food desert the Renaissance Co-op, which is now owned and operated by the community. Very, very successful. For 18 years, we did not have a grocery store there. It was an abandoned strip shopping center. It's all been renovated, and it's a great project. Great fruits and vegetables there. As a matter of fact, on last week I shopped there myself. But that's one example, I think, of what can happen. But for those who are able to afford a smart phone or internet access, online purchasing of food using SNAP benefits does have the potential to offset some of the negative consequences of not having a grocery store in a neighborhood. I do look forward to USDA's progress in the pilot program, and hope that the department and food retailers will continue to develop new ways to reach customers in underserved communities, such as many that I have in North Carolina. As a matter of fact, in Charlotte, which is the area that I'm going to be representing coming January, we have some interest and some concerns about many of the food deserts there. But so as we conclude our 18th hearing, or 16th, whatever it's been, on the SNAP program, I would also like to take a moment to remind members that the SNAP program can only be as effective as how much we choose to fund it. So that is really important. Any new requirements to increase financial incentives for purchasing fresh foods or to expand assistance in finding a job training program must be paid for and not become unfunded mandates on state and county governments, because they're having difficulties as well. So my first question, Mr. Lovelace, how can retailers reach SNAP participants that do not have a smartphone or internet access? Are you looking at telephone as maybe a possibility?
Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, I don't have a good answer for it. We are actively working with and communicating with cell phone providers and broadband cable providers to piggyback on programs that they have targeting low-income communities that don't have internet access. So that is something that we spend time doing out of our giving department. And so I think beyond that, I don't have a better response to your question.
Mr. Beal, well, thank you very much. Mr. Beal, the cost of produce has been identified as a major barrier for improving access to fresh fruits and vegetables, particularly in the 12th District in Charlotte that I represent. How has partnering with other public and private entities enabled your stores in Kansas City to be able to pay for the in-store credit or earnings that a SNAP participant gains each time they produce through the Double Up Food Bucks program?
Well, the program in the first year, the pilot year, was funded by an outside third-party philanthropist. That was 2015, and working with our local partners, I think 3 of whom are nonprofit entities, they applied for a grant from the USDA to expand the pilot program to all of our 14 Price Chopper stores that we own in 2016. So, we pay market price for our local produce to our local farmers, because they deserve a fair price. And so it's on par with what we'd be paying for produce from our wholesaler anywhere else that we'd obtain the product. But the funding mechanism for the program is in part, I think, through a USDA grant that one of our local partners has provided for 2016.
Thank you. Mr. French, have you been in conversations with USDA about effective applications for online payment transactions or other elements that should be included in any application that's developed to interface between the food retailer, USDA, for processing these SNAP purchases online?
Sure. So we've been in active discussions with the USDA for some time now. They have been a great partner throughout this process. We appreciate the rigorous and thoughtful approach they're taking to the pilot program. It's obviously quite complex, and so we appreciate the thoughtful approach they're taking. The PIN-based solution, I think, as we've talked about a couple times now. Again, our perspective is we share the focus and prioritization on preventing fraud in the SNAP program, but we think there are new technologies that are superior to PIN-based solutions for doing so.
Thank you. I'm out of time, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I yield back.
Generally yields back. Mr. Allen, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here today and sharing this information. One of the previous hearings, I believe, with the representatives from USDA about fraud, I suggested something like a picture ID EBT card. And the response was, well, that's too expensive. And as we address fraud as far as the PIN numbers, and I mean, is that the same kind of pushback you're getting? Is that, hey, that's cost prohibitive, yet how do we actually control this fraud? I mean, what do you think's holding up this whole process as far as fraud and abuse goes?
Are you talking about just credit card transactions in general?
Yeah, and the PIN numbers and that. I mean, what's the real pushback? Is that the card, the folks who distribute? Well, USDA distributes the EBT cards, so why can't we do a PIN number system, I guess is why.
I mean, we are going to do a PIN
Okay.
system. That's how it's going to go down for the first pilot, for sure.
Right.
It is a PIN-based system, and the reason why the implementation to get SNAP online was delayed in the first place was that the processors that typically handle these transactions for SNAP, one of the major processors pulled out of the SNAP program altogether.
Okay.
So that caused a huge delay. But everything that I understand from our conversation about integrating with SNAP to be able to accept transactions online has been around using the existing PIN-based program online.
Okay.
Again, we're not against other more efficient processes, but we haven't been pushing for that. Our goal is to make it, knowing how controversial the program and where the concerns are, our goal is to be as frictionless as possible and try to just make the existing system as improved as possible.
Where we have these food deserts, for example, and this, is a problem we've got to address, and you're talking about addressing it with online and then, of course, deliveries. Have we looked at working through not-for-profit food distribution? I know, Mr. Bill, you talked a little bit about that, but there, in every community, I think there's probably got to be a food bank or something that you could distribute through that's not for profit, that would reduce the cost of shipping and all these other things that might add on to the cost of providing for this program. Yes, sir.
If you don't mind if I answer that, but we currently do provide produce to a couple of nonprofit entities, one of which specifically addresses the needs of the food desert community in downtown Kansas City with local produce, and so we work with a couple different entities towards that end.
Yeah. Would that be a possibility as far as online is concerned? In other words, you would get the order online, and then you would have a local not-for-profit. You could say, okay, here's what we've got.
We do that currently. So
you do?
we did a program with a church community group in Flint where we've been donating groceries. So it's something that we think about. We raised money last holiday season for 2 million meals with Feeding America and their local food bank. So we work with over 150 national nonprofits. And it's something that we're very focused on, and I think there's a lot of great work being done by brick and mortar and nonprofits on the ground, and so our goal is to be good partners to that.
Is Amazon doing the same thing?
So we are constantly inventing on behalf of customers. That extends to the various delivery methods we have for delivering products to customers. Our attended delivery service through our Amazon Fresh program and our Amazon Lockers program are both examples of where we have innovated in the delivery method for how we get products to customers. If we're accepted to participate in the pilot, we absolutely would look forward to engage with the USDA on other ways that we could innovate and invent on behalf of customers and SNAP recipients in particular.
And the biggest complaint that I get from my constituents is the nutrition issue. I mean, when you're in a checkout line and people see, my goodness, what's going on here. If you can conquer that issue, I think it would make this program. I mean, we know diabetes, we know these things are, and again, that's costing the healthcare system. So, yes.
I was just going to share that our initiative addresses a couple of the things that you're saying, one being that we actually define a choice of food packages, and all of the foods are nutrient dense. And then we also, in partnership with Feed the Children, are able to offer this benefit monthly at approximately 1/3 to 1/2 of the cost of buying it in the retail market.
Okay. Well, thank you. And please keep working on that. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Mr. Costa, 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I apologize for not being able to participate in this hearing this morning, but I've had a hearing with Natural Resources occurring at the same time. But I do want to make a statement with regards to the many issues that have been raised as it relates to the SNAP program and the many hearings that this committee and subcommittees have held over the last year. Clearly, we've set the table as we prepare in the next Congress to look at the reauthorization of the Farm Bill. And the SNAP program is an important part of the reauthorization of the Farm Bill. And I do have concerns about what policy decisions we will make. Certainly we can look at efforts to improve the SNAP program, and I would be willing to participate in that effort. But I would reject a proposal in the next Farm Bill to dramatically cut the SNAP program. My district is struggling, and cuts to the program would be devastating and directly equate to taking food out of the mouths of children and families in my district. It's a bit of an irony and contrast that I have significant wealth in my district and significant poverty, and we happen to be an area where we grow so much of the food, half the nation's fruits and vegetables. But yet, notwithstanding that agricultural productivity, too often the food doesn't get to the place that it needs to be. The SNAP program is an important bridge of that effort. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has indicated that we have twice the unemployment levels of other parts of the country. As it stands now, I have over 50,000, think about that, households in my district that receive benefits. 79% of those households have a child under the age of 18. 15% have one or more persons that are 60 years or older. This is just the facts. And of course, the drought conditions that we've had for the last 6 years in the San Joaquin Valley, in which we've gotten zero water allocation on a host of years, has further compounded the problems that are being faced, where you have people who have no jobs because fields are unplanted and jobs are therefore at a premium. So clearly taking away food from people who need it is not a solution toward any improvements or efforts to deal with the SNAP program in the next Farm Bill. One of those areas that we had testimony here in the committee this year, I think, is a way in which we can deal with it, and that's the Fresno Bridge Academy. It's one of several programs around the country that is asking to take advantage of the SNAP Employment Training Pilot Program to reduce dependency. We all want to reduce dependency. That, I think, is an important goal. In this program, under the Bridge Academy, we saw 77% of the participating SNAP clients come in unemployed that were underemployed, but 18 months later, after they were part of this program, 83% of the clients had obtained employment or job advancement, and 32% had achieved complete self-reliance. So it's these kind of efforts that I think we need to work on to develop and innovate across the country. The Fresno Bridge Academy is designed specifically to truly help people move to independence. And I think, notwithstanding the divide that we have in our country today, I think one thing every member on this committee can agree upon is that we want to make it more effective for people to be able to become self-sufficient and to feed their families. And I think we can look forward to working together in the next Congress as we reauthorize the next Farm Bill on how we can bring together good bipartisan solutions that will do just that. So, Mr. Chairman, I thank you, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Chairman yields back. Mr. Thompson, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks to all the witnesses for being here. We'll start with Ms. Newport. Has there been any problem with product delivery, particularly in terms of freshness of the items delivered?
The items that are delivered are actually shelf stable for the most part, and so we have not had too many problems with the delivery and just made adjustments where we needed to. Sometimes the address is a challenge, but for the most part, the foods are shelf stable, and so that has worked out well.
Very good. Mr. Bill, would this sort of program that you refer to be successful in retailers with significant use of self-checkout systems?
Yes, sir. The self-checkout systems can be programmed to provide a message to the consumer of both the double-up bucks earnings that consumer has on that shopping trip, as well as what they have available to use on a subsequent shopping trip that would allow them to use some or all of that. It wouldn't be a problem with that.
Okay. Mr. Lovelace, how do you define low-income individuals in your organization? If the utilization of the online space for SNAP recipients moves forward, how do you plan to handle the membership fee that comes with the Thrive model, since in regulation you really can't treat SNAP recipients different than other customers?
So we've talked about that with the USDA extensively, and for every paid membership, we give away a membership to a low-income family, a veteran, a teacher, a student. So we're comfortable waiving the membership fee for all SNAP participants across the board, and that's something that we've discussed and doesn't seem to be a problematic issue in terms of implementation of the program. The way that we think about poverty levels is anybody who is double the poverty level qualifies for our low-income program. And these are families across the country. They're veterans, they're teachers and students, and they apply directly through us and or through a network of nonprofits that we work with.
Okay, very good. So, and USDA is obviously well, I don't want to assume, that's a dangerous thing to do, but they've indicated to your organization that they would be satisfied with waiving that fee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's there's obviously that provision is in there for making sure that people aren't discriminated against, and obviously we think that's a good thing. But in this case, this is something that they understood and was not a problem for them.
Okay, very good. Mr. French, how long does it take to have food delivered from these programs, and does it take longer to deliver to rural areas than it does urban? And is there a freshness concern when delivering to rural areas?
Sure. So we have a variety of different programs and formats that we use to deliver grocery products to customers. Like I mentioned earlier, we deliver non-perishable groceries to customers nationwide, and then through our Amazon Fresh service, we deliver full-line grocery assortment, including perishable items, in a number of regions throughout the country. Across those different programs and formats, we do have kind of different value propositions with different shipping speeds as well. The Amazon Fresh service in particular does offer same-day and next-day delivery of grocery products, which is obviously kind of an important part of ensuring that the products arrive to the customers without freshness being an issue.
I may have my partners mixed up. Does Amazon work with the U.S. Postal Service in terms of some of the, like, 6-day delivery? Is that a part of the process that you use for delivery? Well, not 6-day, but 7-day, actually. Saw one of the postal trucks on Sunday in one of my neighborhoods, and I assume that they were probably delivering for Amazon or someone like that.
Sure, yeah. So we work with a number of different delivery providers, including the USPS.
Okay, very good. And Ms. Hess, you work to change the eating habits of individuals. Is there an education component to the mobile market model? And if so, can you walk us through what that looks like?
Thank you. We do cooking demonstrations, we do taste tests, we do some cooking classes with community groups as the opportunities come up. But again, if you don't have that in lockstep with increased access and affordable food and really high quality offerings and great customer service, you don't get to change much. We also teach little kids on our farm about healthy eating and the origins of healthy food, and we find that they go home and tell their parents, who then come out to the mobile market.
Very good. It seems like the younger you get them, the better.
I think it is. And I just want to say one thing as you guys look at SNAP going forward. To cut it is sort of the very definition of penny wise and pound foolish. It's going to cost us all in the end.
Okay, thank you.
How much time has expired, Ms. Lujan Grisham?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Ms. Hess. I couldn't agree with you more. And while we're having this hearing, and I appreciate the chairman continuing to have SNAP hearings in the committee, finding the balances so that we are innovative and thinking about ways, particularly to garner a better access, not just to food in general, but healthy food that's got the educational components and choice in areas where we have significant food deserts. I'm from MS Newport, like Oklahoma. New Mexico, incredibly rural, incredibly challenged currently in their getting hungry families fed. We still have the hungriest families in the country. Our children, when I first was elected, were the hungriest children in the country. We've done a little bit better, but interestingly enough, I think you're at 25%. We're at 27% of our children are hungry. And right now, USDA is investigating the state for SNAP fraud. And when we're talking about fraud, we want to make sure beneficiaries and families, individuals in the community aren't doing things, and providers and contractors. But here, I have a state that is falsifying records to deny access to some of the hungriest families in the country. All right? So I think striking these balances are very important, and making sure that we don't end up in an environment where we just create more hunger and create newer generations of unhealthy populations makes no sense to me when we have a benefit and a policy that could really make a difference. Ms. Newport, what would you suggest for a state like mine to create the infrastructure for programs like Pact Promise that would get us to the rural delivery aspects, better choices, and get us started in an environment where we're embracing the benefits of a SNAP investment to feeding hungry families and to creating educated consumers for the future?
Well, certainly looking for opportunities to at least pilot some of those concepts and see where they are successful, and have a rigorous evaluation so that we really know what's worth doing and we're not spending time on something that's not effective. I think also just keeping the conversations going. I look forward to talking with folks like Amazon and others who are sending out fresh product and doing it effectively to these areas that we both know are so remote and have so little to pick from. I think we just keep pressing forward with examples of how to do it and showing where it works best.
And I'd be happy to have anybody else on the panel respond. I mean, the issue, and I appreciate some of the questions about what kind of options, choices, how fresh, are we really getting fresh produce? Because some of the programs that are widely available in a market, which has, and now we're seeing studies that if you hire a dietitian or a nutritionist, actually folks are spending much more wisely in, particularly with SNAP benefits in these communities, but also coming back and following through with preparing healthy meals. And we're seeing an increase in spending overall in markets that do this outside of the SNAP beneficiaries. But in rural areas, you don't have those kinds of markets. We've got a lot of local farmers that are looking for ways, and they're already getting lots of support from USDA, but creating this infrastructure where all of these ideas coalesce in a way that's meaningful. Are there other things that we ought to be doing in New Mexico?
If I may, there's a real need in this nation for strengthening the regional food systems, and instead of relying on people, which I love, but people flying food in from all over, people should be eating more and more locally. It's an important issue on the terms of national security as well. You know, all it will take is one typhoon or one dirty bomb in the port of LA to shut down our food system for a week or longer. And so it's important that localities now are building regional food systems that can support the food needs of people immediately around them.
Yes, sir.
I would submit that the model that we have put together, working with our partners in the Kansas City metro area, fulfills a lot of what you've requested. One of the partners is University of Kansas Medical Center, and so they provide dietary training to SNAP recipients on the Kansas side of the line, because Kansas is willing to work with them. Missouri wasn't willing to work with them, wasn't willing to submit those individuals, SNAP customers, to notification about the program and stuff. We also work with the Health Foundation of Greater Kansas City as another nonprofit. So they're providing healthier eating choices and education for those consumers, along with our dietitian that we have in our stores.
Thank you. My time's up. I just think these balances are incredibly important to recognize in this committee. Thank you.
Generally, time expired. Mr. Lamothe, 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for tardiness with competing committees here, so thank you for the panel for coming. I agree with the online retail and delivery system got great potential. I hearken back to when milk was delivered to your doorstep back in the days. I actually thought it was weird to go to the store to buy milk. You know, as a farmer, you know, we kind of go through that thing where people think food comes from the store. I always thought milk came from the back step. So I know better. It's dairy. But the platforms actually the USDA is being urged to look into. I have concern with Thrive, for example, for Mr. Lovelace. We do have a whole page dedicated to being non-GMO, okay? That Thrive is passionately committed to creating a world that is free of GMOs, okay? So, controversial subject, I get it, but much potential around the world for helping with hunger on greater yields, et cetera, less chemical use. Much of what comes from these websites is non-perishable foods, so we're not going to see maybe as much fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, and deemed as the most nutritious, with packaged items, et cetera. I guess where I might run up with a bit of a problem is that when we're talking just straight nutrition, that it isn't solidly proven that organic or non-GMO is more nutritious. It might be grown in a way that is more acceptable to folks and in some fashion there, but we do know that there's much more cost with that. So making our dollars go as far as possible and giving consumers the choices on price, whether they're concerned or not with something being GMO, I think we might harm ourselves a little bit if we're going to go only down that path. So if you would comment on that, Mr. Lovelace, a little bit, and how does your outfit decide the food that you would categorize as SNAP approved, and then the affordability of it going forward?
Sure.
How do you arrive at that?
So I think, first acknowledge that the GMO debate is a controversial one, and we're not explicitly against GMOs. I think that there's a lot of competing data, and it's very early in the process. I think one of the
If I may, if a web page does indeed say passionately committed to creating a world free of GMOs,
yeah,
that's
we are committed to being seen as a place where when you buy food it doesn't have GMOs, and I think the challenge that I have personally with GMOs today is
your company would be free of GMOs, or it says here a world free of it,
The problem that I have with GMOs is that they're being sprayed with massive amounts of glyphosate, which studies are showing are coming into 90% of Americans are testing positive for glyphosate poisoning. So it's a very complex issue. I think there's opportunities where GMOs can be producing higher yield foods with lower water.
Say it again, please. The GMOs being sprayed with
glyphosate. It's 90.
That doesn't define a GMO. A GMO is genetically modified.
Genetically
in the field.
modified, yeah.
What you do to it after it comes from the field is.
Yes, so the food crops are being engineered to withstand glyphosate, which is an herbicide. And so that enters into the food stream, and 90% of Americans are testing positive for glyphosate. So, there's all sorts of early data. We feel like it's too early to be able to say definitively that it's safe to have GMOs in the food supply. That's our position on it.
So how do you decide what is going to be categorized as a SNAP approved food within your?
I mean, there's very strict guidelines for what those are, and so we look very carefully at the USDA recommendations on that, and every category of product that's.
So you kind of align with USDA recs?
It's absolutely aligned with the USDA recs.
How about affordability?
Say again?
How do you do things in an affordable way? keeping food as affordable as possible. With all
Well,
the
so we buy directly from the brands, so we cut out all the distributors, all the retail markup, and all the shelf games that happen in the traditional retail model.
Okay, thank you. I have to jump with limited time here. Ms. Hess, was mentioned you've developed an app that allows you to track what people have purchased at the mobile application there. So just real quickly, on this technology, why is tracking this information, do you think, as useful? Is it a little bit intrusive?
It's not intrusive because we're not tracking it to individuals, but what we get to see are the purchasing patterns that people have, and then we get to see what actually works in increasing the amount of healthy food that people take home with them. So if we do a kale cooking demo 1 week, we can track whether or not our kale sales shot up that week at that location and were they sustained at that location. So it's a great way to tell. You can't change what you can't measure, so we're measuring what we're doing.
So not just the 1 week or 2 bump on kale, but maybe a long term to
Right. Ideally, that's what you come out with, right? Because if everybody's eating more kale, then I think we'll see some health benefits from that.
Thank you. I better yield back. Thank you.
Jim's time has expired. Well, I want to thank our 5 witnesses this morning for helping with us. Your written testimony and more extensive information is available. Thank you for what you're doing on your own to try to solve this issue. It is a wide-ranging issue from food waste to affordability, misinformation about what is and isn't in the food, all those kind of things out there. Several of my colleagues have argued passionately about what they won't agree to this next year. This series of hearings was done in an attempt simply to find out what's working and what's not working. It was never intended to cut SNAP or to anything to it, but improve it. And if we can get the policies right, then we'll figure out whether we can afford them. But getting the policies right is really the goal of this past 2 years. My team will put together a extensive report on these hearings to be able to further the discussion as we move toward the legislative part of what our work is about. And we appreciate your help. If there's any additional information that you want to provide? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I just want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for these series of hearings, because this is a very, 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 very important subject that this committee grapples with. And it took a lot of leadership for you to do this. It's brought a lot of information and benefit and education about this issue. The one area that really points this out, and just for the record, so you can understand the significance and the greatness of what you have done, is in this latest statistic from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities that says 1.7 million struggling veterans are now using food stamps. In addition, more than 1/4 of recent veterans reported service-connected disabilities, which has made it harder for our veterans to provide for their families. And households with a veteran who has a disability that prevents him or her from working are twice as likely to not have access to adequate food. That alone, Mr. Chairman, gives great significance of what you have done, because you've uncovered some things of which this nation has been only dimly aware. And I want to thank you for that, and I think the nation thanks you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. I appreciate that. That's not been a universal position with respect to many on the committee, as the number of hearings we've had.
Well, that's why I wanted to let you know. You deserve that recognition, because I know it's been a tough grind for you, but the nation appreciates it.
Our chair and ranking member on the committee, Ms. Walorski and Mr. McGovern, have been an integral part of all of that as well. And so, again, appreciate it. Under the rules of the committee, today's hearing will remain open for 10 calendar days to receive additional material and supplemental written responses from the witnesses to any question posed by a member. This hearing on the Committee of Agriculture is adjourned. Thank you again.
That's important.